Welcome, everyone. Tonight we have a very, very special guest with us for our Speaking to Spirits series. We are blessed tonight with the presence of the spirit of one of our best generals ever to fight for the side of America. General George Patton has joined us tonight, and he will be answering questions, and he will tell us his story. So with that, I've already checked in with the general. He's here and looking forward to it. So why don't we get started, and we'll let Connie start asking questions.
Okay. General, would you like to begin with a message?
Yes, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell my story in my own words. I appreciate that you wrote a chapter about me in your conspiracy book, but I'm very happy to tell everyone what took place and to tell my story.
Okay. Where were you born?
I was born in San Gabriel, California.
Will you tell us about your family?
I loved my mother very much. My father was a little more distant. I had siblings, and I pretty much had a well-to-do childhood, and my parents saw fit to send me to a boarding school, which I did not particularly enjoy, but all in all, I would say I had an excellent childhood.
Okay. Have you and Barry been together in prior lives?
Yes, his soul and mine have been together multiple times. There was a time that he and I were brothers. We lived around 1000 AD. There was a time that I was his uncle, and there were 3 or 4 other times that we knew each other but were not related. So yes, I have a long prior life history with Barry.
Okay. Could you tell us any more about those prior lives?
My prior lives were mainly dedicated to fighting in wars. I feel that my soul is best suited when I am leading armies. When Barry and I were brothers, we did not fight together, but I was involved with fighting for the honor of our Christ.
Okay. Is there anything else that you can tell us about your prior lives with Barry and other prior lives?
Yes, there was another one in which I was his uncle. In that lifetime, that was approximately 1500 AD. In that lifetime, he did get involved in the military, as so did I.
Okay. Which wars did you participate in your prior lives?
I participated in many small wars and some major wars. I fought the Corinthians. I fought many times during the Crusades. I fought in wars after Christ was crucified.
Okay. Why did you believe in reincarnation?
I believe that I was a little bit psychic in my last life. I always felt a very close relationship. For instance, when I was in Africa in World War II, I realized that I had fought there in an earlier lifetime. Reincarnation was always something that seemed very natural to me.
Okay. How would you represent your academic record at West Point?
I was adequate at West Point. I was pretty much in the middle of my class. I did much better at West Point than I did in the school that my parents sent me to earlier.
Okay. Could you tell us of your experiences while fighting Pancho Villa?
I was lucky enough to have been sent to Mexico. Ponce Villa had invaded over the American border, and we were sent back to protect the residents and to make sure that he stayed. There was a time that I was involved in a minor skirmish in which I was lucky enough to kill a few of Villa's men. I was also lucky enough at that time to come to learn to know General Pershing, and that paid dividends for me when it came time for World War I.
Okay, what role did you play in World War I?
I was assigned to one of the first tank divisions that ever fought for the United States Army. I was sent overseas, and I spent about 3 months in action, and I learned much that would affect how I would command armies in the future.
Were you anti-Semitic?
Sadly, I can say that I was.
Okay. How did you get to know Dwight Eisenhower?
I got to know Dwight after I returned from Mexico. He was a young officer at the time, and we got along quite well at that point. But I got to know him earlier, and then I must say when he became Supreme Commander in World War II, we did begin to have our difficulties.
Okay. Could you describe your role in the African campaign?
When I came to Africa, the military corps that I was to take over was an absolute mess. They were getting their ass kicked by Rommel, and it was my job to train them and to bring them into fighting form. I did succeed at that, and we wound up defeating the Germans in Africa.
Okay. What was your opinion of Rommel?
I respected Rommel very much. He was a brilliant tactician. He knew how to utilize his panzers to the fullest advantage, and he was one of the most formidable enemies that I ever faced.
Do you see him now that you're on the other side?
Yes, since we're on the other side, I've actually become quite good friends with him.
What comments do you have about the campaign in Sicily?
The Sicily campaign was the first time was a time where the generals kept getting in my way. I wanted basically to have free rein to order my army to do what needed to be done to win as rapidly as possible. The Brits were jealous of my success and caused delays that resulted in me losing the lives of men that should have never have been lost.
Did you really slap soldiers in the hospital?
Yes, I do regret now that I did it. I did not accept the concept of battle fatigue. I felt that they should stand and fight. I now realize that I'm on the other side, just how real that illness can be. But I was disgusted by the fact that the men were not in the fight with their units, and unfortunately I lost my temper and did slap 2 of them.
What was your role in the Normandy invasion?
By the time they were planning Operation Overlord, Eisenhower had me in the doghouse because of what I did in Sicily. I felt that I should be leading the invasion, but he and the other generals felt differently. They placed me in charge of a phantom army that consisted of blown up tanks and camps that didn't exist. Our job was to mislead the Nazis into believing that I would be leading the invasion near the port of Calais in France. I was very upset at the time, but now, in retrospect, I understand what an important role it played in the success of the Normandy invasion.
Yeah. What is your opinion of Omar Bradley?
Omar Bradley had his good points. There were times that we differed, but there were also many times that we agreed. I thought Omar was one of the better generals that we had.
Okay. What is your opinion of Montgomery?
Montgomery and I butted heads on many occasions. He was a man of great ego, and I must admit that his ego exceeded his intellect.
Okay. What is your opinion of Winston Churchill?
I thought that Winston Churchill made many decisions that cost us American lives. We agreed to attack at Normandy in order to bring relief to Britain, but I felt that there were more ways that we should have driven the Germans out of France. For instance, the northern coast was well fortified, and I believe that we could have done a better job coming in from the south of France. All in all, I would say that Winston Churchill was an asshole.
Okay. Did you have an affair with Jean Gordon?
I did not. That was a rumor that was started. She was actually related to me, and I felt a lot of affection for her, but I assure you we never had an affair.
Why did Eisenhower relieve you of your military governorship?
After the war, I returned home for a short leave, and while I did, I was met with a hero's welcome. I think that they feared me politically. When I was sent back, I was actually put in charge of a very small administrative unit. I know that Eisenhower and the president did not want me to be able to return and speak the words that I was going to speak. My plan was that I was going to retire from the Army so that I was going to resign from the Army, not retire, so that there'd be no restrictions on what I could say after I got out. And they did not want me to speak without restrictions.
Okay. Were you planning to run for president?
I don't think so. I had considered it, but I believe that I believe that after I had gotten out of the Army and spoke my mind, I would have made too many enemies to ever run for president.
Could you describe your accident in Germany?
The accident that I had in Germany was premeditated. It was all arranged. The whole idea was that I would be killed, and they would make it look like it was some of the Nazi underground that was still fighting the war. What happened was they brought this truck and they pulled it in front of me, in front of my vehicle, and we hit it, and all of a sudden I was hit from behind with a blow that actually broke my neck. They also tried to make it look like the Nazi sympathizers were killing me, and they actually attempted to hang me, but they could not get that to work either. So figuring that the broken neck would be enough, they took me to a military hospital.
Okay, who planned your accident?
My accident was planned by the highest of our commanders. Sadly, General Gay was part of it. Eisenhower was probably the main thrust behind it, and I know that the president at that time was also knowledgeable in what was taking place.
Why did they feel the need to kill you?
They felt that that was the only way they could shut me up, and that was probably very true, because I was planning to speak my mind.
Okay, what happened after the accident?
After the accident, I was taken to a military hospital, and they faked my death. They said that my heart gave out, but in fact, I was paralyzed, but my heart was beating very strongly. I think I surprised them that I was actually looking like I might have a partial recovery from the accident. There was no way that they wanted me to be able to speak about what was happening. So they secretly removed me out of Germany and took me back to the United States.
Did your wife get to visit you while you were in Germany?
No, that was a lie that the Army made up.
So I take it you are not buried in Germany?
No, I am not buried in Germany.
Where were you held?
When they first brought me back to America, they took me to an underground military hospital in the state of Virginia. I'm really not sure what the location was because they kept me doped most of the time they were transporting my body. But I do know that it was somewhere in the state of Virginia.
How old were you when you died?
I was 68 years old when I died.
What year did you die?
I died in 1963.
Oh, my word. How many years were you held in captivity then?
I was held in captivity for about 18 years.
So where are you buried?
After I finally passed, they actually buried me at sea so no one would ever find my body.
So who did they bury in Germany, in your place?
The casket is empty in Germany.
Okay. Did your wife know what was happening?
When I was in Virginia, my nurse snuck her into the hospital where I was being kept, and I did see her. I actually did not really want her to see me in the condition I was in because I was starting to deteriorate physically. I will tell you that I never gave in to them mentally.
Okay. In what city did you die?
I died in San Francisco. They moved, after the nurse brought my wife in to see me, the Army found out that she was aware of where I was. So they immediately moved me out to San Francisco to a military facility near Nob Hill. And that is where I eventually passed.
What is your opinion of President Trump?
I think President Trump is a good man. He has many faults, but in a lot of ways he is outspoken in the same manner that I was when I lived. And I truly admire people that speak their minds. He is not a typical politician, and he has made many, many enemies. He needs to be very careful because there are people with great power that can do harm to him.
Yes. How do you think we should be handling the problem with Iran?
Iran should have been handled years ago. When they first took the prisoners, we should have gone in and kicked their ass. That would have been the end of it. Unfortunately, President Carter at the time let them maintain and keep and gain control and strength. Through the years, they have become true enemies of our country. Now they have a very strong military, and with all the supplementary fighting groups that they have, the terrorists in other nations such as Hamas, they will be very, very difficult to control. I fully believe that there will be a time that we're going to have to take very strong military action against them because they already do have an atom bomb that they purchased from the Russians. And the last thing we can have is for them to be able to mass produce nuclear weapons. And even though I was never a big fan of the Israelis, they are now our only true ally in the Middle East, and they have to be protected. So I feel there will be a time that we will have to take major action against them.
Are you planning to reincarnate again?
Yes, there will be a time that I return. I feel that my country needs me, and I hope that I can return to a position of strength that I can help America.
Okay. Do you have a final message for us?
Yes. I am very proud of what Barry and Connie have done and how they are bringing the messages of those of us that want to be heard. My life was ruined by politicians that plotted against me. They held me in captivity and ruined my future. I should have never had my neck broken in that accident. Unfortunately, they were able to carry out their plan, and I was the victim. I hope that it never takes place again, but I fully realize that there is so much evil in your military and in your government today that they are capable of most anything. Right now, I find it very hard to believe that the citizens can gain control of their government with what is now taking place. The citizens of America need to stand strong, speak out, and select politicians that will truly follow their lives. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you for letting me speak my words. If you should ever want to hear from me again, I will remain available until I return to you. So with that, I will say goodnight.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, General. I appreciate it. As I say, I dedicated an entire chapter to you in my book, Spirits Speak of Conspiracies and Mysteries. And I realize that you wanted to tell your story in your own words. So thank you very much for coming through to us. If you liked this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel because there's going to be many more of them. So with that, we are going to say goodnight.